What if I told you that some of the most powerful anti-aging plants on the planet aren't locked away in some high-tech laboratory or hidden behind a pharmaceutical paywall, but growing wild across the hillsides and kitchen gardens of Japan? Most people don't know this. But while we're all spending hundreds of dollars a month on synthetic serums and prescription creams and whatever miracle supplement some influencer is pushing this week, Japanese grandmothers have been quietly outliving us all by simply eating the plants that grow in their backyards. Japan has nearly 100,000 centenarians, 100,000 people over the age of 100. And when researchers go looking for why, the answer keeps coming back to the same place: the plants. Stick around because number 17 on this list is a plant that the West considers a destructive weed, something people spend thousands of dollars trying to eradicate from their property. But it contains more of a life-extending compound than red wine, and scientists are calling it one of the most potent natural activators of longevity genes ever studied. And number 20. Number 20 is the plant that ties this entire story together. It was eaten by samurai warriors. It was studied in a landmark experiment at the University of Graz, and it contains a compound that extended lifespan by 20% in laboratory organisms by triggering the body's own cellular recycling system. You are not going to want to miss that one. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because we post new videos every week that uncover the natural secrets the wellness industry doesn't want you to find on your own. So, let's get into it. Here are 20 Japanese plants that will keep you young forever, ranked from remarkable to absolutely miraculous. Number 1. Yuzu, the citrus time capsule. Most people in the West think of yuzu as a trendy cocktail ingredient, a splash of something exotic in a craft drink. But in Japan, this knobbly, aromatic citrus fruit has been used for centuries in a practice called yuzuyu, the winter solstice bath. On the longest night of the year, Japanese families float whole yuzu fruits in steaming hot water, and they soak. The belief, going back to the Edo period, was that yuzu baths warded off colds and kept the skin supple through winter. Citrus junos, as it is formally known, was never just a flavoring, it was medicine. Modern science has caught up. Yuzu peel is extraordinarily rich in limonene and hesperidin, a flavonoid that research shows can improve blood vessel function and reduce oxidative stress. A study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine found that yuzu aromatherapy significantly reduced anxiety and lowered heart rate in participants, pointing to powerful stress reduction effects. And chronic stress, as we now know, is one of the primary accelerators of biological aging. Here's how it was used. Japanese households would grate yuzu peel into soups, steep it in hot water as a tea, and press the juice onto fish and vegetables. The whole fruit was used, nothing wasted. The essential oils were inhaled during bathing, the peel was eaten, the seeds were even soaked in sake for topical skin treatments. Why did it fall out of mainstream awareness? Because you can't patent a citrus fruit. When synthetic vitamin C supplements hit the market, whole food sources like yuzu were dismissed as old-fashioned and unnecessary. The supplement industry had no interest in telling you that a bumpy little Japanese citrus could do what their tablets promised. Think of it as the forgotten first draft of every vitamin C serum on the market today. Number 2. Dokudami, the poison blocker. This is a plant that most Westerners have never heard of, and yet in Japan it is so widely respected that its name literally translates to poison blocker. Houtouinia cordata has been a cornerstone of Japanese folk medicine for hundreds of years, listed in classical herbal texts alongside ginseng and licorice root. During the Edo period, it was one of the 10 most important medicinal herbs in Japan, used so commonly that it grew in nearly every household garden. And here's what research now proves. Dokudami contains a compound called quercetrine, a powerful flavonoid with documented antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Studies have shown that extracts of Houtouinia cordata can inhibit the production of inflammatory cytokines, those chemical messengers that drive chronic inflammation and, by extension, accelerated aging. Research published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology demonstrated that Dokudami extract exhibited strong free radical scavenging activity, outperforming several well-known antioxidant herbs. Traditional use included brewing the dried leaves into a detoxifying tea called dokudami-cha, applying crushed leaves as a poultice for skin infections, and drinking the tea regularly to support liver and kidney function. Japanese mothers would give it to children at the first sign of a cold. Why was it forgotten? Because it smells terrible. Honestly, that's a big part of it. Dokudami has a pungent, almost fishy odor when fresh, and that made it an easy target for dismissal. The beauty and wellness industries had no interest in marketing something that didn't smell like a spa, so they ignored it, and a centuries-old detoxification powerhouse slipped into obscurity. Think of it as the bodyguard your cells didn't know they needed. Number 3. Mugwort, the dream herb. If you've ever had mochi in Japan, there's a good chance you've eaten mugwort without knowing it. That distinctive green color in yomogi mochi comes from Artemisia princeps, Japanese mugwort, a plant that has been woven into Japanese spiritual and medicinal life since the Heian period. Buddhist monks burned it as incense. Healers used it in moxibustion, the traditional practice of burning dried mugwort on or near the skin to stimulate circulation and healing along energy meridians. Recent clinical studies show that Japanese mugwort is rich in chlorogenic acid, flavonoids, and sesquiterpene lactones, compounds with potent anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Research from Korean and Japanese universities has demonstrated that Artemisia extracts can suppress the activity of matrix metalloproteinases, the enzymes responsible for breaking down collagen in your skin. In plain language, mugwort helps prevent wrinkles at the molecular level. Here's how it was used. Beyond mochi and moxibustion, Japanese households steeped mugwort leaves in hot baths for skin conditions. They drank mugwort tea to ease digestive complaints. They even placed bundles of dried mugwort at doorways during seasonal festivals, believing it purified the home. Why did it fall out of favor? Mugwort was so common, so abundant, so ordinary, that nobody thought to study it seriously until recently. It was the dandelion of Japan, everywhere, and therefore invisible. The pharmaceutical industry never looked twice at something growing in every ditch. Think of it as the wallflower at the party who turns out to be the most interesting person in the room. Number 4. Gotu kola, the tiger herb. There is a legend that wounded tigers in the jungles of Asia would roll in patches of gotu kola to heal their injuries. Whether or not that is literally true, Centella asiatica has been used across Asia, including Japan, for thousands of years as a wound healer and longevity tonic. In Japanese Kampo medicine, it was valued as a brain tonic and skin rejuvenator, and Okinawan elders, those famously long-lived people, consumed it regularly. Modern science has caught up in a significant way. Gotu kola contains a group of compounds called triterpenoid saponins, specifically asiaticoside, madecassoside, asiatic acid, and madecassic acid. Research published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences confirms that these compounds stimulate collagen synthesis, accelerate wound healing, and improve microcirculation. Clinical studies have demonstrated that gotu kola extract can strengthen the walls of blood vessels and improve venous insufficiency. Traditional use included eating the raw leaves in salads, brewing them as tea, and applying pastes made from crushed leaves directly to burns and scars. In Ayurvedic tradition, it was considered one of the most spiritual herbs and was consumed by meditating monks to enhance mental clarity. It was eclipsed by the rise of synthetic retinoids and collagen supplements. When a lab-made compound can be standardized, packaged, and sold at a premium, a wild plant that anyone can grow becomes an inconvenient competitor. Think of it as nature's own collagen factory, running quietly for millennia while we tried to reinvent it in a lab. Number 5. Shiso, the ancient garnish. In Japanese restaurants around the world, shiso is the leaf sitting next to your sashimi. Most people push it aside. That is a mistake of enormous proportions. Perilla frutescens, known in Japan as shiso, has been cultivated in East Asia for over 2,000 years, not as a decoration but as a medicinal herb. Ancient Chinese medical texts documented its use for respiratory ailments, digestive disorders, and allergic reactions, and Japan adopted it enthusiastically into Kampo medicine. And here's what research now proves. Shiso is extraordinarily rich in rosmarinic acid, a polyphenol with powerful anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-allergic properties. Studies in the journal Nutrition Research found that rosmarinic acid from perilla extract significantly reduced markers of allergic inflammation. Research published in the journal Foods showed that perilla seed oil improved cognitive function and reduced markers of oxidative stress in elderly subjects, with effects linked to its exceptionally high alpha-linolenic acid content, an omega-3 fatty acid that comprises over 50% of the seed oil. Here's how it was used. Red shiso was pickled with umeboshi plums, giving them their distinctive color and preserving them. Green shiso was wrapped around rice balls, shredded into soups, and steeped into teas. The seeds were pressed for oil and used both in cooking and in topical skin preparations. Why was it forgotten? Because it was reclassified as a garnish. When Japanese cuisine went global, shiso was reduced to a pretty leaf on a plate. Nobody told Western diners that the garnish was the medicine. Think of it as the side dish that should have been the main course all along. Number 6. Japanese honeysuckle, the fever vine. When a fever struck in pre-modern Japan, one of the first things a healer reached for was Japanese honeysuckle. Lonicera japonica, known as suikazura, has been a pillar of traditional East Asian medicine for well over 1,000 years. Its flowers, buds, and stems were documented in the foundational Chinese medical text, the Shinong Benkao Jing, and the plant was widely adopted in Japanese kampo formulations for clearing heat and resolving toxins from the body. Recent research confirms what traditional healers observed. Japanese honeysuckle contains chlorogenic acid, luteolin, and a suite of iridoid glycosides with demonstrated anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and antioxidant activity. A study in the journal Phytomedicine found that honeysuckle extracts inhibited the production of pro-inflammatory mediators, including nitric oxide and tumor necrosis factor alpha. Chlorogenic acid specifically has been studied for its ability to protect against UV-induced skin damage and to regulate glucose metabolism, two processes intimately connected to aging. Traditional use included brewing the flowers into a sweet, fragrant tea called kingin kacha, creating tinctures for sore throats and respiratory infections, and applying decoctions topically for skin rashes and inflammation. It fell out of awareness because, like mugwort, it grows everywhere. Japanese honeysuckle is considered invasive in much of the United States. People see it climbing over fences and telephone poles and never once consider that it might be medicinal. The abundance was its undoing. Think of it as the medicine cabinet growing wild on your back fence, hiding in plain sight. Number 7. Wakame, the ocean's collagen shield. Walk into any Japanese home at dinner time and there is a strong chance you'll see a bowl of miso soup with dark green ribbons of seaweed floating in it. That seaweed is wakame, Undaria pinnatifida, and it has been a dietary staple in Japan for centuries. Archaeological evidence suggests that seaweed consumption in Japan dates back to the Jomon period, making it one of the oldest continuously consumed foods in human history. Modern science has caught up in dramatic fashion. Wakame contains a sulfated polysaccharide called fucoidan, and the research on fucoidan is staggering. Studies published in Marine Drugs have shown that fucoidan exhibits anti-aging effects in normal cells while simultaneously promoting the death of cancerous cells. Research demonstrates that fucoidan activates the immune system, supports cardiovascular health, and has even been shown to reduce tumor development in animal models. The compound works by modulating a gene called p53, which plays a critical role in cellular aging and cancer suppression. Here's how it was used. Beyond miso soup, wakame was eaten in salads dressed with rice vinegar, simmered in broths, and dried for long-term storage. Okinawan communities consumed seaweed daily, and researchers studying Okinawan longevity have consistently identified seaweed consumption as a distinguishing factor in their diets. Why was it overlooked? Because in the West, seaweed was considered strange, slimy, and unappetizing. Marketing departments couldn't figure out how to sell it, so they sold fish oil capsules instead. Think of it as the ocean's gift that the landlocked world was too proud to accept. Number 8. Japanese camellia, the silk oil. If you've ever wondered how geisha achieved that flawless, luminous skin, part of the answer is tsubaki oil. Pressed from the seeds of Camellia japonica, the Japanese camellia, this oil has been used in Japanese beauty rituals for over 1,000 years. During the Edo period, tsubaki oil was the premium beauty product of its era, applied to skin, hair, and even used to maintain the blades of samurai swords because of its remarkable resistance to oxidation. And here's what research now proves. Camellia oil is remarkably similar in composition to human sebum, containing over 80% oleic acid, a monounsaturated omega-9 fatty acid. This molecular similarity means it absorbs deeply into the skin without clogging pores. Studies published in the Journal of Oleoscience have demonstrated that camellia oil exhibits strong antioxidant activity and contains squalene, a natural compound that protects skin lipids from oxidative damage. Squalene production in our own skin declines sharply after age 30, making external sources increasingly important. Traditional use included massaging the oil into the face and neck nightly, coating the hair for shine and protection against the elements, and even taking small amounts internally as a digestive lubricant. Why was it forgotten? Because the Western beauty industry consolidated around olive oil, then argan oil, then jojoba oil. Each was marketed as the new discovery, while tsubaki oil, which had centuries of documented use, was never given its moment in the Western spotlight. Think of it as the original face oil, the one that geisha trusted with their legacy, waiting patiently for you to discover it. Number 9. Japanese barberry, the golden root. This thorny shrub might not look like much growing along the edges of Japanese mountain paths, but Berberis thunbergi harbors a secret in its roots and inner bark, a brilliant yellow alkaloid called berberine. Berberine has been used in traditional East Asian medicine for over 3,000 years, and the Japanese species of barberry was valued in folk medicine for treating infections, digestive complaints, and inflammatory conditions. Recent clinical studies show that berberine is one of the most extensively studied plant compounds in modern pharmacology. Research published in Metabolism found that berberine is as effective as metformin, the frontline pharmaceutical drug, at improving insulin sensitivity and regulating blood sugar. Studies in the journal Aging Cell have demonstrated that berberine activates AMPK, the enzyme sometimes called the body's metabolic master switch, which plays a crucial role in cellular energy regulation and longevity. Berberine has also been shown to lower LDL cholesterol and reduce inflammatory markers. Here's how it was used. Japanese herbalists prepared decoctions from the root bark for treating diarrhea and eye infections. The bright yellow dye extracted from the inner bark was also used to color fabrics and papers. And that same yellow compound, berberine, was the active medicinal ingredient. It fell out of mainstream awareness because berberine, as a natural compound, cannot be patented. Pharmaceutical companies developed synthetic blood sugar medications that they could control, price, and market. A plant-based compound with comparable efficacy was simply an inconvenient truth. Think of it as the golden thread connecting ancient wisdom to cutting-edge metabolic science. Number 10. Umi, the warrior's plum. Samurai warriors carried umeboshi into battle. That's not legend, it's documented history. The pickled ume plum, made from the fruit of Prunus mume, was considered an essential field ration for Japanese soldiers dating back to the feudal era, valued for its ability to purify water, prevent fatigue, and aid digestion during long campaigns. Ume has been cultivated in Japan for well over 1,000 years, and umeboshi remains a daily staple in Japanese households to this day, often placed in the center of a bowl of white rice. Modern science has caught up beautifully. Ume fruit contains a compound called mumeferol, which forms during the pickling process and has been shown to improve blood flow by reducing the tendency of red blood cells to clump together. Research published in the journal Food and Function found that ume extract demonstrated significant antioxidant activity and inhibited the oxidation of LDL cholesterol, a key factor in cardiovascular aging. Additionally, the extreme acidity of umeboshi, combined with its citric acid content, supports the body's alkaline balance and enhances mineral absorption. Here's how it was used. Beyond umeboshi, ume was steeped in shochu liquor to create umeshu, a medicinal plum wine taken as a digestive tonic. The juice was concentrated into a paste called bainiku ekisu, used to treat everything from stomach complaints to fatigue. Even the vinegar left over from pickling was used as a household disinfectant. It was forgotten because pickled foods in general lost favor with Western wellness culture, which associated them with high sodium intake. The nuance that fermented and pickled foods offer profound metabolic benefits was lost in the oversimplification. Think of it as the battlefield medicine that never stopped working even after the wars ended. Now, if you're finding this valuable and you're starting to realize just how much ancient plant wisdom has been hiding in plain sight, do me a huge favor. Hit that like button right now. It helps this video reach other people who are searching for real answers about longevity and natural health. And if you haven't subscribed to The Garden Path yet, click that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're building a community of empowered, curious people who believe that nature already has the answers if we're willing to look. And I'd love to have you as part of it. All right, let's keep going because we're just getting to the really amazing ones. Number 11. Japanese persimmon, the autumn healer. There is a saying in Japan, when the persimmons turn orange, the doctors turn blue. Diospyros kaki, the Japanese persimmon, has been cultivated since at least the 7th century, and in traditional Japanese medicine, every part of the tree was considered useful. The fruit was eaten, fresh and dried, the leaves were brewed into tea, and the calyx was used in campo prescriptions for hiccups and coughs. Persimmon tannin was even used to coat paper and waterproof fishing nets. And here's what research now proves. Persimmon leaves are rich in flavonoids, particularly kaempferol and quercetin, both of which have demonstrated anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects in peer-reviewed studies. Research in the journal Food Chemistry found that persimmon leaf tea had higher antioxidant capacity than many commonly consumed teas. The fruit itself contains beta-carotene, lycopene, and a unique group of proanthocyanidins that support vascular health and help prevent the oxidation of LDL cholesterol. Traditional use included drying thin slices of persimmon into hoshigaki, a preserved fruit prized as a natural sweetener and cold remedy. The leaf tea, called kaki no hacha, was consumed daily by communities in Nara Prefecture and was believed to regulate blood pressure and improve circulation. It faded from attention because the persimmon season is short, the fresh fruit is delicate, and dried persimmon couldn't compete with the convenience of packaged snack foods. The slow, patient craft of hoshigaki didn't survive the age of instant gratification. Think of it as autumn in a fruit, carrying the quiet power of an entire season's worth of sunlight. Number 12. Kuzu, the root of resilience. If you've ever driven through the American South, you've seen kudzu swallowing entire landscapes, telephone poles, abandoned houses, entire forests draped in green. In the United States, Pueraria montana is considered an ecological disaster, but in Japan, where it originated, kudzu has been a revered medicinal root for over 2,000 years. It appears in some of the oldest campo formulas, particularly kakonto, a formula prescribed at the first sign of a cold or flu. Modern science has caught up with remarkable findings. Kudzu root contains isoflavones, specifically puerarin and didzine, compounds that have been shown to have estrogen-modulating, anti-inflammatory, and neuroprotective effects. Research published in Phytotherapy Research found that puerarin improves cerebral blood flow and exhibits protective effects against neuronal damage. Studies in the journal Alcoholism, clinical and experimental research have demonstrated that kudzu extract can significantly reduce alcohol consumption, suggesting powerful effects on the brain's reward pathways. Here's how it was used. Japanese cooks dissolved kudzu starch into soups and sauces as both both a thickener and a digestive soother. Healers prepared decoctions from the root for fever, stiff neck, and early-stage colds. The flowers were even used to treat hangovers, an application now being validated by modern research. It was forgotten because in the West, the plant's reputation as an invasive species completely eclipsed its medicinal value. Nobody wants to hear that the vine destroying their landscape is actually a pharmacy. Think of it as the misunderstood immigrant, demonized in its new home but deeply honored in its homeland. Number 13. Natto, the living enzyme. Let me be honest with you. Natto is not easy. It's sticky, it smells intense, and it stretches in long, web-like strands when you lift it with chopsticks. Most Westerners who encounter natto for the first time are repulsed, and that visceral reaction has hidden one of the most extraordinary longevity foods ever documented. Natto is made by fermenting soybeans with the bacterium Bacillus subtilis, and the people of Okinawa have consumed it for centuries, often aging it for a full year in limestone caves. And here's what research now proves. Natto is the richest known dietary source of two critical compounds, nattokinase and spermidine. Nattokinase is a fibrinolytic enzyme that has been clinically shown to dissolve blood clots and improve circulation. A study published in Atherosclerosis demonstrated that nattokinase supplementation significantly reduced fibrinogen levels in human subjects. Spermidine, meanwhile, is a polyamine that triggers autophagy, the cellular recycling process that cleans out damaged proteins and organelles. The discovery of autophagy's mechanism won Japanese scientist Yoshinori Osumi the Nobel Prize in Physiology in 2016. Here's how it was used. Okinawans ate natto daily, typically with rice and mustard. Some communities aged their natto in limestone caves to increase spermidine content. It was considered a foundational food for longevity. It was forgotten, or rather, never adopted, because its taste and texture are genuinely challenging for Western palates. Food companies tried and failed to market it in Europe and North America. So instead of eating natto, people now buy spermidine supplements at 10 times the cost. Think of it as the food that separates the curious from the comfortable and rewards the brave with longer life. Number 14. Gynostemma, the immortality herb. In the mountainous regions of southern Japan, there is a climbing vine that local communities call amachizuru, which translates to sweet tea vine. The elders in these regions were noticed to have unusually long lifespans, and when researchers investigated their diet, they found that Gynostemma pentaphyllum tea was consumed daily. This led to its popular name in China, the herb of immortality. Recent clinical studies show remarkable results. Gynostemma contains a class of compounds called gypainosides, saponins, that structurally resemble ginsenosides, the active compounds in ginseng. Research published in the journal Aging has demonstrated that Gynostemma activates AMPK, the same metabolic master switch activated by the diabetes drug metformin and by caloric restriction. Studies have shown that gypainosides exhibit antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, cholesterol-lowering, and blood sugar-regulating properties. In cell culture studies, Gynostemma extracts have been shown to protect human cells from oxidative damage. Traditional use included brewing the leaves as a daily tea, often sweetened lightly with honey. In some regions, the leaves were also added to soups and stir-fries. It was consumed as casually as green tea, but with a different and arguably more powerful pharmacological profile. It was overlooked because ginseng dominated the adaptogen market. Gynostemma, despite containing similar active compounds, never had the marketing budget or the cultural cachet that ginseng enjoyed, especially in the West. Think of it as ginseng's quieter, possibly more talented sibling, doing the same work without the fame. Number 15. Japanese indigo, the skin guardian. Here is a plant you almost certainly associate with dye, not medicine. Persicaria tinctoria, Japanese indigo, known as AI in Japanese, has been used for centuries to create the deep blue fabrics that define traditional Japanese fashion. But what most people don't know is that the same compounds that produce that gorgeous blue color also possess powerful antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, and skin protective properties. During the Edo period, samurai wore indigo-dyed undergarments, not for aesthetics, but because the dye protected against skin infections and insect bites during long campaigns. And here's what research now proves. Japanese indigo contains tryptanthan and indirubin, two compounds that have demonstrated significant anti-inflammatory and anti-tumor activity in multiple studies. Research published in the Journal of Natural Products found that tryptanthan inhibits cyclooxygenase 2, the same enzyme targeted by common anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen. Indirubin, meanwhile, has been studied extensively as a kinase inhibitor with potential applications in cancer therapy. Traditional use included applying indigo paste to wounds and insect bites, drinking weak indigo infusions for digestive health, and using indigo-dyed cloth as bandages for its antimicrobial properties. It was forgotten because the invention of synthetic indigo in the late 19th century made the natural version commercially irrelevant. When the industrial application disappeared, so did the awareness of its medicinal properties. Think of it as the blue warrior hiding in your grandmother's kimono, fighting battles you never saw. Number 16. Sancho pepper, the tongue awakener. Take a single Sancho peppercorn, place it on your tongue, and wait. First comes a bright, citrusy burst of flavor. Then something else entirely. A buzzing, tingling, almost electric sensation that numbs and enlivens your mouth simultaneously. Xanthoxylum piperidum, Japanese Sancho pepper, has been used in Japan since the Jomon period, and it is one of the oldest spices in Japanese cuisine. It appears in the classical spice blend shichimi togarashi and is the traditional seasoning for grilled eel. Modern science has caught up with this extraordinary sensation. Sancho contains sanchool compounds, which interact directly with nerve receptors in a way that is unique among food substances. Research published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B demonstrated that sanchools activate touch-sensitive fibers that respond to vibration, literally making your tongue feel a vibration that isn't there. Beyond the novelty, sanchools have been shown in studies to have anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and analgesic properties. Research in the journal Molecules identified antioxidant compounds in sancho that protect lipids from peroxidation, a key process in cellular aging. Here's how it was used. Japanese cooks ground the peppercorns to season grilled fish and tofu. Young spring leaves, called kinome, were used as a fragrant garnish. The bark was even chewed as a remedy for toothache, owing to its natural numbing properties. It faded from attention because black pepper and chili dominated global spice markets. Sancho's subtle complexity couldn't compete with the straightforward heat that Western palates preferred. Think of it as the spice that doesn't just season your food but wakes up every nerve in your body and reminds them to stay young. Number 17. Japanese knotweed, the immortal invader. This is the one I told you about at the beginning, and the irony here is almost too perfect. Japanese knotweed, Falopia japonica, is the most hated plant in the Western world. In the United Kingdom, it can devalue a property by thousands of pounds. In the United States, entire state agencies are dedicated to eradicating it. Homeowners spend fortunes on chemical treatments to kill it. Mortgage lenders refuse to finance properties where it's found growing. And yet, this plant that the West is desperately trying to destroy is one of the richest natural sources of trans-resveratrol on the planet. More than grapes, more than red wine, more than any other commonly available plant. In traditional Japanese and Chinese medicine, the root of knotweed, known as hujang in Chinese or itadori in Japanese, meaning pain remover, has been prescribed for cardiovascular conditions, inflammatory ailments, and infections for over 2,000 years. Its use is documented in the foundational text of Chinese medicine, the Shenong Ben Cao Jing. And here's what research now proves. Resveratrol is one of the most studied longevity compounds in the world. A landmark study in the journal Nature demonstrated that resveratrol activates sirtuin proteins, particularly sirtuin-1, which are directly involved in DNA repair, inflammation control, and lifespan extension. In yeast models, resveratrol application resulted in a 70% increase in lifespan. In vertebrate models, it delayed age-related degeneration. Human clinical trials have shown that resveratrol supplementation increases skeletal muscle SIRT1 expression. And the knotweed root contains not just resveratrol, but also amodin, quercetin, and polydatin, creating a synergistic cocktail of bioactive compounds. Here's how it was used. In Japan, young spring shoots of knotweed were eaten like rhubarb, with a similar tart flavor. The root was decocted into medicinal preparations for joint pain, liver inflammation, and circulatory problems. Japanese herbalists also used an alcohol extract as a gentle laxative. Why was it forgotten? It wasn't forgotten. It was vilified. When Japanese knotweed was brought to Europe in the 19th century as an ornamental plant, it escaped cultivation and became invasive. Its reputation as a destructive weed became so overwhelming that its extraordinary medicinal properties were completely buried under the negative press. Nobody wanted to hear that the plant destroying their foundation was also the plant that could extend their life. Think of it as the most powerful medicine you've ever tried to kill, waiting in your yard, offering everything while you reach for the herbicide. Number 18. Sakura, the blossom that repairs. Every spring, Japan transforms. Millions of cherry blossom flowers erupt across the country, and the Japanese gather beneath the trees in a tradition called hanami, which has been practiced since the Nara period in the 8th century. But sakura is not just beautiful. The blossoms of Prunus yedoensis contain bioactive compounds that modern science has only recently begun to understand, and the results are remarkable. And here's what research now proves. Cherry blossom extract contains caffeoyl glucose and quercetin glucoside, two compounds that have been clinically shown to combat glycation, the process where excess sugars bind to proteins like collagen and elastin, creating advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These AGEs are one of the primary drivers of skin aging, causing wrinkles, loss of elasticity, and yellowing. A randomized, placebo-controlled clinical trial published in a peer-reviewed journal found that daily supplementation with sakura extract for 8 weeks significantly improved skin hydration, elasticity, collagen index, and wrinkle appearance in female participants aged 30 to 50. A separate separate study demonstrated that cherry blossom extract protects skin cells from ultraviolet radiation damage by reducing reactive oxygen species and increasing the activity of the body's own antioxidant enzymes, superoxide dismutase and glutathione peroxidase. Here's how it was used. Japanese women preserved cherry blossoms in salt to make sakuracha, a delicate tea served at celebrations and weddings. The preserved petals were folded into sweets and rice dishes. Sakura water was used as a face rinse, and the bark was incorporated into traditional skincare preparations. It was overlooked because the West romanticized the cherry blossom as a symbol, but never investigated it as a medicine. We took the beauty and left the science on the tree. Think of it as nature's most elegant anti-aging serum, falling from the sky for 2 weeks every spring, free for anyone willing to catch it. Number 19. Matcha, the monk's elixir. In 1191, a Zen Buddhist monk named Eisai returned from China carrying tea seeds and a revolutionary idea. He planted those seeds in Kyoto and began cultivating what would become the most concentrated source of antioxidants in the tea world. Camellia sinensis, when shade-grown, stone-ground, and consumed as a whole leaf powder, becomes matcha, and it is not merely tea. The monks who developed matcha cultivation noticed that it sharpened their meditation, providing sustained energy without agitation. They called it medicine first and beverage second. Modern science has caught up spectacularly. Matcha contains epigallocatechin galate, known as EGCG, a catechin that research shows scavenges free radicals with potency far exceeding that of vitamin C. A study published in the Journal of Chromatography found that matcha contains up to 137 times more catechins than standard brewed green tea because you consume the entire leaf rather than just the water-soluble extract. EGCG has been shown in research to protect against telomere shortening, the cellular equivalent of aging. Studies demonstrate that daily matcha intake can reduce inflammatory markers, improve cardiovascular function, and activate AMPK, the longevity enzyme that mimics the effects of caloric restriction. Matcha also contains L-theanine, an amino acid that promotes alpha brainwave activity, creating a state of calm focus that no coffee can replicate. Here's how it was used. Monks prepared matcha using a bamboo whisk in a bowl in a ritual that evolved into the Japanese tea ceremony, one of the most refined cultural practices in human history. Beyond ceremony, matcha was consumed daily by scholars, warriors, and common people alike as a health tonic. Why was it overshadowed? Because the global tea industry commoditized tea into bags, reducing it to the cheapest possible product. Matcha, which requires shade growing, hand picking, and stone grinding, couldn't compete on price. Mass market tea became the standard, and the most potent form of green tea was pushed to the margins. Think of it as 800 years of monastic wisdom ground into a powder, waiting in your cup every morning. Number 20. Ashitaba, the tomorrow leaf. And here we are at number 20, the one I saved for last because it represents everything we've talked about today. Ashitaba, Angelica keisuke koizumi. In Japanese, the name means tomorrow's leaf, because when you cut a stem today, a new one grows back by tomorrow. That extraordinary regenerative capacity caught the attention of Japanese healers centuries ago. According to historical accounts, Ashitaba was consumed by the samurai of the Hachijojima Islands, and it has been a staple of folk medicine in the Izu and Bonin Island chains for generations. The bright yellow sap that bleeds from a cut stem was applied topically to wounds. The leaves were eaten raw, cooked into tempura, or brewed as tea. But it was a research team at the University of Graz in Austria that revealed just how extraordinary this plant truly is. In a study published in the journal Nature Communications, researchers screened 180 different flavonoid compounds for anti-aging properties. Out of all 180, one compound emerged as the strongest all-round performer. That compound was 4,4-dimethoxychalcone, known as DMC, and it is found in abundance in the leaves and stems of Ashitaba. Here is what DMC does. It triggers autophagy. Autophagy is the process by which your cells clean house, breaking down damaged proteins, recycling defective organelles, and removing the cellular debris that accumulates with age. When autophagy slows down, which it does as we get older, cells become cluttered with waste. That clutter drives inflammation, disease, and aging. DMC restarts the cleanup process. In the Graz study, when organisms were treated with DMC, their lifespans increased by approximately 20%. In human cells, DMC slowed senescence, the process where cells stop dividing and begin secreting inflammatory signals that damage surrounding tissue. DMC belongs to the flavonoid family, the largest group of phytonutrients in the plant world, and it goes beyond the general benefits of a plant-rich diet by directly activating a cellular recycling pathway. Here's how it was used. Ashitaba was eaten daily in the communities where it grew. The fresh leaves were added to salads, cooked in soups, deep-fried fried as tempura or dried and brewed as a daily tea. The yellow sap was applied to cuts and abrasions for rapid healing. It was not treated as a supplement or a luxury. It was food. It was daily nourishment. It was as common and essential as rice. Why was it forgotten? Because ashitaba grows only in specific regions of Japan, primarily on remote volcanic islands. It never had global distribution. It never had a marketing campaign. And because the compound DMC wasn't identified until 2019, the scientific community simply didn't know what it had. By the time researchers caught up, the plant had already been consumed as folk food for centuries, quietly keeping islanders healthier than their counterparts on the mainland. And this is the thread that runs through every single plant on this list. These are not exotic miracles locked behind paywalls or limited to laboratories. They are living, growing, endlessly renewable sources of compounds that work with your body's own systems to slow down the aging process. Every plant we discussed today, from the yuzu in its winter bath to the ashitaba regrowing overnight, represents the same fundamental truth. Nature solved the aging problem a long time ago. We just stopped paying attention. Think of ashitaba as the final proof that the most powerful pharmacy on earth isn't in a building. It's in a garden. If this changed the way you think about aging, hit the like button and let me know it mattered. Drop a comment below. Are you Team Matcha, Team Ashitaba, or Team Natto? I genuinely want to know. Subscribe to The Garden Path and ring that bell so you never miss what's coming next. Because the garden has more to teach us than we've ever imagined.